Hey, this is Jeff Walker, and we're going to talk about niches today. Niches or niches, depending where you are in the country. And the thing I've noticed about entrepreneurs is that entrepreneurs and marketers, they tend to be very interested in markets because markets are so different, and they all have different characteristics. And it becomes endlessly fascinating to think about different markets. If you're selling to lawyers or you're selling to massage therapists, very different markets, and they're going to have lots and lots of different characteristics. And some of that is what we're going to walk through, and we're really going to try to show you how to settle on a niche. Now, one of the things to remember is this isn't like the be-all and end-all. It's not like you only get one shot at this. I started teaching people about the stock market. That was my niche, was the stock market and investing and actually trading. And right there's two different markets. Investing and trading, to an outsider, they seem like they're the same market, but they're very, very different. They both involve the stock market, but they're very, very different from each other. So in any case, I started in the stock market, and I moved eventually after about 8 years or so, 8 or 9 years, I moved to teaching people about building a business online. Incredibly different markets. So it's just like when you get out of college, or if you get out of college, your first job is likely not going to be your last job. Here, your first niche, it's likely not going to be your last one. So this, you can change. You can have multiple niches even. So this isn't like a life and death question, but it is important to think about a lot of things as you focus on your first market. Okay, so first of all, there's a big question. Do you want to follow your passion, or do you want to follow the money regardless of whether you're interested in that market or not? And a lot of people just want to, I'm passionate about teaching yoga, or I'm passionate about golf, and that's really what I want to go into. It's my life, and that's fine, 100% fine. Even if you're in that mode, I think this recording will be really valuable for you because there's often sub-markets within a market, and we're going to cover a lot of ground that's good for you to understand. On the other hand, there's a lot of people that are like, I just love building businesses, or I love the marketing process. I love going in and figuring out markets. And in that case, that you fall into that second category. There's no right or wrong answer here. You could be one or the other. I've mostly been the first one, but there's been a few times where I've dabbled in things just because it was a puzzle to figure out, and then I fell into that second category. But that is a big question for you right off the bat. Now, there are 4 what we call mega markets, and these are just huge markets. The first one is making money. The second one is relationships. The third one's health, and the fourth one's hobbies. So they're not only mega markets in that they generate huge sales and huge dollars and huge opportunities, but they're really big umbrellas. So making money could be anything from, how to interview for a job, to how to start a business, to investing in real estate, to investing in the stock market. It's a huge spectrum. Same thing with relationships. It could be how to get dates, or how to raise your kids, or how to how to find a marriage partner, or it could be how to build a great network of friends. It could be how to have a better marriage once you're already married. So it's a huge market. Health, incredibly big market. It could be anything from bodybuilding, lifting weights, to fighting cancer, to yoga, to all the different types of treating different diseases, staying healthy, eating healthy, meditation. It could be just a huge umbrella there. And hobbies, it could be like hobbies or sports. So it could be scuba diving, or tennis, or golf, or stamp collecting, or dressage, or cake decorating, or knitting. Huge area there. Now, one of the things here is that they can overlap. Like you could have a niche that's teaching people how to walk dogs as a profession. So that combines dogs and money. And often there's lots and lots of markets that overlaying one of these mega markets, especially those first three on top of it, could really be a great niche. Like, I mean, you could have something for truck drivers, which is about making money, about for them on how to stay healthy, because they're in their truck driving all day long. How do what are exercises you can do as you're driving your truck? Or how can you eat healthy when you're driving across the country and stopping in truck stops all the time? So I just want to put these out there because you definitely want to think about these mega markets, because often layering in, how to maintain a relationship as a long haul truck driver where you're gone all the time. There's all kinds of different ways that you can layer these mega markets. So always keep those in mind. Okay, now I just want to go through some brainstorming here. So this is basically just going to help you think about markets and think about potential markets for you. So approach number one is to focus on you. So this is where you look at what are your core passions and interests? What skills have you developed? What knowledge have you acquired? What challenges have you overcome? And what would other people say that you do really well? And what do people come to you to ask for advice? And it's amazing because I remember when I was starting out and I first learned about publishing online and creating information or wisdom-based products, at that time I was studying nonstop about the stock market because I was fascinated with it. I was just study on the market. And I was also a stay-at-home dad taking care of a couple of little babies at the time. So I had a very full day taking care of these two kids. Every waking minute, if I could get them down for a nap, I'd be studying the stock market. I'd be trying to build these computer models, these neural network-based models, artificial intelligence-based models that would, where you could predict where the stock market was going. So I was obsessed with that. Then my wife would come home, we'd get the kids in bed, and then I would just study until all hours of the night and into the early morning, study the stock market. And then finally I would lay down in bed. And as I'm laying down in bed, I would, for a couple minutes before I fell asleep, I would think about, oh man, there's that information marketing. That's going to be such a great business. What can I publish about? And then I would get up the next day and I'd spend the day taking care of the kids, and every spare minute studying the stock market, looking at data that went back 100 years in the stock market. And then exhausted, I would fall into bed and say, boy, what can I publish about? What can I publish? And this went on for weeks and months. And all of a sudden one day when I got really desperate and it was time to do something different, I decided I was going to start publishing. And I'm like, wow, I should just publish about the stock market. And it's often that way. The answer is often right in front of your nose. And sometimes people are just blind to it. So that's where you look at these types of questions, especially what do other people think you do really well? What do you do that other people find fascinating? So that's approach number one. Now, approach number two is to focus on your avatar. And this, you might be a case where you sort of have this general vague idea of what direction you're going in. And you can think about who's your typical client, your perfect client. And that's what the word avatar means, is it's just this fictional representation of who your perfect client is. And so if you start to think about who that client is or who you want to work with or who you want to help, and then you start to think, what do they come to you for help with? And what do they ask you questions about? Maybe you have existing clients that you work with. What do they struggle with? What keeps them up at night? What are their pain points? What are their challenges? What are the common questions they always come to you with? What are the common questions that they ask on blogs or in the comments section in other programs? What about the best-selling books on your topic? Whatever your topic is, there's likely a bunch of books. And if there aren't, it's probably not a good market. We'll talk about that later on. But go to Amazon and type in your the keywords for your topic and look and see what are the top ranked books. And on Amazon, you can see what all books are ranked in terms of their sales rank. It's just scroll down and it tells you how they're ranked. Go into forums on your topic. Just whatever your topic is, like let's say it's guitar. You could go to Google and type in guitar space and then forums, and you can find the top forums. And you can go to those forums and see what are people asking. Often in those forums, they'll have sticky topics, which are like always stay up at the top of the forum. They'll be like frequently asked questions, and you can look in there, or just look in the forums and look for the most popular topics that have, hundreds or thousands of views and replies, and look at those and see what those topics are. And you can start to figure out what people are really struggling with, what they're interested in. And then if by some crazy notion you actually have like an email list, you can send an email and you can ask people what they're struggling with. If you could sit down with me for coffee, what would be the number one question you would ask me? That's a great way to ask your list what they're struggling with. Okay, approach number 3 is to follow the money. And this is where you find out who's making money and see how you can do it differently or do it better, what improvements you can make, or could you just bring your own particular voice to it? Can you bring your own personality to it? Often, like in this case, one of the things like if you're thinking about going into a market, you can just take a look and see who's advertising in that market, either in magazines or on Google or on Facebook. And it'll tell you, if people are advertising, and especially if they're advertising, they've been around for a while as advertisers. If you go look at magazines and look at a given magazine on a topic, maybe it's scuba diving, or maybe it's golf, or maybe it's whatever. Look back, a year, and if there's ads that were running a year ago that are still running, they're paying a lot of money for those ads. And that'll tell you something that is working in that market. Then there's this idea of like evergreen markets versus seasonal markets or fad markets. You want to look at a market that's been around and it's going to be around. Like Ryan Levesque was just telling me about when he started out, one of the markets he was in was making jewelry out of Scrabble tiles, the game Scrabble. And it was a nice market. It was a hot market for a little while, but then it was sort of a fad that went out. And you don't want to build your business on a fad. Now, so there are seasonal markets, like skiing is a seasonal market. And you want to be, or Christmas or Halloween. If you built your business around Halloween, then you're putting all your eggs in a basket, and you're going to be busy for about 2 months of the year or 1 month of the year. And the rest of the year, you're going to be wondering what to do. And, if something goes wrong in that one Halloween, you could be out of business. So if you're going to do evergreen markets like that, then you probably want to have them offset. Like, for instance, here in my hometown here in Durango, Colorado, there's a lot of sports enthusiasts who like to ski and like to mountain bike. And so one of the shops in town, actually a couple of shops in town, they specialize in skiing in the winter, in the fall and winter, and mountain biking in the spring and summer. So those seasonal markets offset each other. So you either want seasonal markets that offset each other, or probably better to go with evergreen markets. Now, in terms of following the money, you want to look for markets with multiple types of products at different price points. It's ideal if you can find a market that does support higher price points. One of the things you can do is go to ClickBank, and you can search in their marketplace by niches, and you can find just all kinds of products there. And you can actually tell, if you go in there as an affiliate and look at in their marketplace as an affiliate, then you can look at the gravity scores, and they will tell you how well that product is selling. So it's great. You can actually look at all these different information-based products and see what's selling. And you always want to remember those big 4 proven markets and combine them or niche them down. Like I said, the making money market, that's not really a market. This is a big umbrella. And when I went into it first, there's all kinds of different, as I mentioned, different sub niches there. And one of the big ones is the stock market and investing. Let's just say investing is a really big one. And then under investing, there's investing in all kinds of different things, including the financial markets. And from there, within the financial markets, there's all kinds, there's currency, there's commodities and futures, there's the stock market, there's bonds, there's options, and I'm sure I'm forgetting a whole bunch, gold, but so there's a whole bunch of them there. So when I started publishing there, and I really didn't know anything, this is just sort of, I had this real narrow niche interest, so I started in that niche, and I was publishing for short-term stock index future traders. So that's like a little tiny niche of a little tiny niche. And it's actually gotten a lot bigger now. It was much, much smaller back then. It was actually just starting out back then. But that's an example of within a big umbrella market, niching down and then niching down and then niching down and then niching down within that. And that's what I did. And if you're going to go for those mega markets, you got to do something like that. Susan Garrett is one of my students, incredibly successful. She teaches dog agility training. So, there's the pet market, then there's the dog market, then there's the dog training market, then there's the competitive dog training market, and then there's the dog agility market. So niche within a niche within a niche within a niche. And it's still a wonderfully powerful market for Susan. Okay, so in terms of researching and testing a market, you want to absolutely, first thing I do is Google the niche and see what comes up. And when it comes up, you want to look for who's advertising, and you also want to look for who's at the top in terms of what we call the natural search, the people that are at the top of the Google rankings that didn't pay for the Google rankings. So, the top few rankings are always going to have, they'll say ad under them. And those are the people that are advertising. And you want to click through and follow what they're doing. Look at what products they're selling. Focus on whether they're building a list. If they're building a list, how are they building it? What is their lead magnet that they're giving away? What are they publishing? I would go get a second email address and subscribe to like all the top advertisers. I'd go probably the top 10 advertisers, 10 to 20 advertisers, and the top 20 to 30 to 40 sites. And I would subscribe to everything. And that's why I said have it go to a second email address. Then I would put together a spreadsheet, and I would list them in order by how they're appearing, the top sites that were advertising, and also the top sites in the natural search. Then, so I would put the name of the site, the URL, if they're building a list or not, what they're selling, what kind of price points they're selling at. Then I would start to follow their emails, watch the emails coming in, and start to judge how good their marketing is. And then I would look to see if they're what they're selling, and if they're selling other things other than their own products, whose other products are they selling? And I would look to see if they're starting to promote. If you've got a list now of the top 30 or 40 or 50 sites, are they promoting for each other? Are there joint venture deals going back and forth? And the big question is, are they selling in this market? Now, one of the things in there, it says if there's no competition, then be very careful. You don't want to go into a market where there's no one in there. You've got this brand, you came up with this new idea. No one's ever thought of this before. It's going to be amazing. And that's generally a warning sign, because the odds are you aren't the first person in the history of the world that thought about creating a business in that market. Someone else has probably already thought of it and tried it and failed. So you want to look and make sure that there is competition. You want to find a successful market and be better or be unique. Bring your own unique personality, your own unique voice, somehow improve on the products. And I love being in a market that people are passionate about, that they're rabid about. People are just, there are some markets where people just get really into it. Golf is a market, scuba diving is a market, dog training is a market, pets in general, relationships, finding dates. For me, people are, I teach how to build a business, and I'm teaching how to build the best business, which is an online business. And people are super passionate about that because of what it's going to bring to them in their lives. So given a choice, I'm going to look for that versus like selling tires. I mean, there are people that are super, super rabid about tires and about cars and car suspension. And so that's an example where you would niche out. If you're selling race tires for rally cars or for autocross cars, people are into that in a big way. Okay, so that would work. But just, general tires for Camrys, probably not, people aren't so passionate. It's a utility type of thing. So I would avoid that kind of market. One thing you can do is you can go look at popular magazines to get ideas. I love going into stores that are periodicals where they just specialize in magazines, because there are so many magazines out there. And I am a bit of a magazine junkie. I just subscribe to all kinds of different magazines, just a crazy range of magazines. And I always have. It's just something I like to do. And but go into a periodical store and start to browse, and you can start to see niches that you would never have dreamed of. Like in the guitar, like if you just go and look at guitar magazines, there are guitar magazines for playing electric guitars, acoustic guitars, playing heavy metal, playing blues, for guitar collectors, for people that are into historic guitars, for people that are into tuning guitars, and I'm not talking like basic tuning, for not reconstructing, but remodeling guitars. There are finger-picking guitar magazines. There are slide guitar magazines. There's magazines devoted to certain guitarists. And it just goes on and on and on. It's just absolutely amazing how many guitar magazines there are. And it's like that. If you go to a good periodical store, you can see all kinds of magazines you never thought of. That will give you ideas for niches or niches. You can go to Amazon.com, search for hot markets, both in their magazines, but also in their books. You can look and see if there's a trade association for the market. I've never really gone down that road too much, but some markets have trade associations. So you can learn about the market, because, well, that's just a fantastic place to learn. You can look for the cost per click. So if you go, and one thing you should do is you should join Google AdWords. So that is Google's advertising platform. So anyone can join. It's just adwords.google.com. Or just do a search on Google for Google AdWords, and you can go there and you can join up. It costs nothing, and you can get all kinds of information there, including you can see how much people are paying for a click for different keywords. And if people are paying like $4 or $5 for a click, that means it's a very, very valuable keyword. There's some where people are paying a lot more than that for a click. Now, one thing you can do is, if you're sort of narrow down, you say, I'm interested in this market, you go back to your spreadsheet where you've got all those top sites, and try just by looking around and seeing who seems to be doing well, who's up the top of the ads, who's doing joint ventures with each other, sort of get a feeling for some of the top products that are selling. You can go ahead and see if they've got an affiliate program. You can join the affiliate program, and you can watch how they work with their affiliates, watch the emails they send to their affiliates, watch that affiliate process. You can even go crazy, and you could go and buy some advertising and send some traffic into that affiliate program and see how well it's converting. Certainly, one thing you want to be looking at as you're doing all this research and testing is you want to be thinking about what possible offers you can make, and analyze those in terms of the demand, in terms of the competition, in terms of what quality is really required within the market. What are other people doing? I mean, part of this is it'd be best if you went out and bought some of the programs from your would-be competitors and start to understand what they're doing, how they're doing it, watch their sales process, see what is the possible hot points, because just by watching their sales process, you can start to figure out what they've learned about the market. You can look at what kind of upsells they have, what kind of downsells they have. You can look at what type of quality, how high quality is their marketing, and how high quality is their actual product. If they're doing launches, take a look at their pre-launch content. How strong is it? And so you can start to understand, like, what do you have to do to compete in this market? And then you can think about, based on that quality, what's going to be your speed to market? How quickly can you create something to compete in that market? And again, I think in this world, it's not so much about competition as it's often about cooperation between markets. And that's another thing to look at in the market. Do people tend to promote for each other as joint venture partners? Because if they do, then all you have to do is get in, start to build a list, and become one of their more significant partners by making sales for them. And then generally they'll turn around and promote for you. So part of your research and your testing is to look for the different factors of demand. So I like to look at search volume. So one of the ways you can do this is go to, if you've joined Google AdWords to try to figure out what the cost per click is for advertising, Google AdWords, they've got a keyword tool that will tell you about search volume. And it all really depends on the market and in sort of the pricing within the market, but I like to look for at least 100,000 searches for the main keywords. Again, you're looking at Google, and are people paying for ads on Google AdWords? What kind of competition is there? And are people in that market buying online? And frankly, these days, just about every market is online. But it's still good to see if there are long-standing offers in the market where they're clearly building a business around making online sales. So you're looking for competitors who have been there for a while, who are making money through online sales. Now, this is super, super advanced, and you have to be careful here. There are legalities around this, but you can actually create a sales letter and or even better, a squeeze page, an opt-in page for before your product even exists, and you can send some traffic to it, and you can look and see if you're getting conversions. Basically it'd be an opt-in page to join your list for something, and you can send some traffic there. You can spend a small amount of money on pay-per-click traffic, either on AdWords or for many markets, Facebook's better, and you can see if people are actually interested enough to join your email list. This is something I did when I was moving from the stock market into teaching people about marketing, teaching people about online business building. I actually put up an opt-in page, and I did that in March of 2003. So this is ancient history, but March of 2003. Okay. I didn't actually sell. I put up an opt-in page, and it was like, put in your email address and I'll share my everything I know about building a business online. I didn't actually start selling anything in this market until October of 2005. So that was 2.5 years, more than 2.5 years later when I actually started selling a product. But my first instinct was to go start building a list. I'm going to build a list and start to judge how this, and I knew it was going to be a hot market, but that was my first instinct, was to go ahead and start building a list. So that is always going to be the first thing I focus on. But you can even start doing that even before you're sure you're going to go to the market. You could just put up an opt-in page super quick and see how much success are you having getting people to opt in. And that can give you some great intelligence on any market. Now, there's things that I want you to avoid here, that as you're thinking about market and as you think about niche, you need to avoid. And one of them is thinking, I'm not enough of an expert on whatever the topic is. The reality is you don't need to be the greatest expert in the world. Because for instance, one of the things you can do is you can leverage the knowledge of other people who are experts. Because generally, there are a ton of people that would love to be interviewed by you. It's amazing how easy it is to get experts to agree to an interview, because all of them are starving for more attention. So you might not get the top echelon, the top expert of all experts, but you can still get an expert to do an interview. if you look at all the podcasts that are happening right now, it seems like 80% of them are people just interviewing each other. But you don't even need to interview them to pull their expertise, because so many of them are publishing in blogs or publishing on YouTube or publishing books, and you can take their knowledge there and giving them full credit, but say, boy, I just saw this video by so-and-so and they're really brilliant. And here's 5 of the key points that they taught in this video. You can do that all day long. You can do that with podcasts. You can do that with books. You can do that with what people are blogging about. You can aggregate the information of several different experts. Aggregate that information. Pull it together. The thing is in any market, most people are beginners. And that's just the nature of learning, because everyone starts as a beginner. If you look at guitar players, 90% of them are beginners, just because everyone starts as a beginner. Eric Clapton started as a beginner. If you look at surfers, 90% of them are beginners, because even Kelly Slater started off as a beginner. If you look at golfers, 90% of them are beginners, because everyone starts as a beginner. So in whatever market you're in, most of the people are going to be beginners. And you don't have to be the greatest expert in the world. You only have to be a few steps ahead of them. There's this saying, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. What that's saying is you don't have to be the world's expert. You just have to be a few steps ahead of the beginners, and then you can teach them. Now, there's a flip side to this. Because there's this phrase of, fake it till you make it. And there are times where that's a really scary, scary thing. Like if you're in a situation where you're teaching someone something they could get in trouble with, like serious trouble or danger, or they might lose their life savings. Like when I was teaching about the stock market, I didn't have any credentials, and I didn't have a ton of experience as a trader. But I was working with I had a mentor who did have a lot of experience, and he'd been trading successfully for a decade. And basically what I was doing was we were partners, and I was publishing his work. And oh, by the way, I'd spent years studying the market. So I knew, just myself, I knew so much more than almost anyone, enough where I could give good, solid advice. Plus, I had the work of my partner who had been trading for a living for 10 years. If you're teaching, if you're going to teach someone about parenting and you're not a parent, you don't want to mess kids up. You don't want to mess parents up. So you got to be careful. I'm just in general not a fan of the fake it till you make it. But I am a fan of becoming an expert or bringing other experts out there and then leading people forward. So as you're thinking about this, some of the questions to ask is, even if you aren't the world's greatest expert, can you help them take action? Can you help them stay accountable? Like if you're teaching on a topic, you don't have to be the greatest expert on that topic to inspire them, to get them to move. Even beginners, slightly advanced beginners who are starting to have some success can be tremendously inspirational to other beginners to get them to take action, to stay, and you can help them stay accountable. And you can get them moving towards real results. And those things really can be way more important than having the status as an incredible expert. One of my most successful product launch formula owners is John Gallagher. And John teaches about edible and medicinal plants and herbs. And it's a topic that he's been studying and his wife have been studying for years and years and years. But really, John will tell you, I'm not the expert. I bring the experts to the market. So he has, even though he's got a lot of expertise, He's actually become really great at the marketing, at the business side. And he finds other world-class experts and he helps them create courses and bring them out to the world. Now, another big thing to avoid is following a passion of yours without checking out the market, without really testing the market, without understanding the market. Big part of this I see happen a lot is people offer what they think the market wants and not what they actually want. Or even worse is offering what you think the market needs and not what they actually want. There's this old saying that it's easier to sell the cure than it is to sell prevention. And many people, especially in markets they're really passionate about, if you really know the inside of the market and you really know what's going to move the needle, then you really know what they need, but it's hard to sell what they need. Going back to guitar, I have someone that I follow, and they teach they teach how to practice correctly, which is the key to all playing. And some of the stuff they teach is like, it's moving your fingers so slowly. Like literally it might take 5 seconds to move one finger from one string to the next string. So if you think like 5 seconds, like 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds to move one finger from one string to another. It's the absolute most core fundamentals that you need. This is like how to really learn true mastery of the guitar. However, and I think this person who teaches this does an incredible job, and I have followed this person's work. But this person doesn't have a very big business because most people, even though that's what they need to learn the guitar, it's not what they want to learn. They want to be playing a song, or at least playing chords, within the first couple minutes. So they jump ahead. They want to learn from someone that's going to teach them super fast. That's what they want. What they need is to take 5 seconds to move a finger from one string to the other. If you go into the market and you try to sell what the market needs, you're going to have a hard time. And the reality is this is an advanced concept, and I'm going to get into this throughout Product Launch Formula, so I'm just going to touch on it quickly. You need to teach, or you need to sell what the market wants. You sell them what they want, and you give them what they need. So you sell them, hey, we're going to teach you how to play songs really quick. Once they get the program, then you have to figure out a way to give them what they need, which is being super fundamental in how they move their fingers on the string and the core pieces that they need. And then also find a way to jumpstart them to learning those songs really quickly. That's your challenge, is to give them what they want. And then if what they want isn't the thing that's going to truly move them forward, then you have to give them what's going to truly move them forward. But first you have to sell them what they want. So again, this is super advanced. I went through it pretty quick. And we will get to this further throughout Product Launch Formula. I just wanted to give that to you right now. You definitely want to do your research that we covered in this training. And you want to get, one of the keys is trying to get as much feedback as you develop your product. When I teach Product Launch Formula, I teach how to do the seed launch. And the seed launch is a super interactive process where you're getting feedback every step of the way, because that feedback will help you create a great product, and it will also help you figure out what the objections are and what the market wants, so that it will not only inform the actual product, the feedback will not only inform the product, but will also inform your marketing as well. So another big thing to avoid is not niching down enough. You really do need to niche down. You want to avoid going super broad and wide. You want to be narrow and deep in your topic. If you try to serve everyone, you're going to serve no one. So here's an example of niching down. You might have an interest in ADD, okay? But that's a huge market. So you might want to focus on parents of children with ADD. But that's pretty big too. So you might want to focus down on parents of elementary kids who are ADD. And you might even want to go tighter than that, or at least that might be like your market might be for parents of elementary kids with ADD, but then a product might be for parents of kids with elementary age kids, but solving their discipline problems. So there you've taken it down, you've niched down to a market, and then when you're actually going down to a product, it might be actually focusing on discipline problems within those elementary age ADD kids. So that's an example of niching down. So finally, just to wrap this up, because I know we're getting pretty long here, don't overcomplicate this. Now, we've got a guide for you here to download, and it's basically an action guide on finding your niche. And remember, you're not going to 100% know everything and get this perfectly right the first time you try it. It is about baby steps. It's about gradually, it doesn't have to be slowly, but gradually moving forward in your knowledge of your market, your knowledge of the characteristics of the market, of who else is out in the market, and gradually tightening down. And remember, you might need to pivot. In other words, you're starting in one direction, you might need to move into a different direction, a slightly different direction, or a big change. And finally, remember, this isn't the be-all and end-all. There's very, very few people that start off in one place and stay in that market for the rest of their lives. Almost everyone at some point shifts markets. It could be a massive shift like I made, or it could be a minor shift. But this isn't, you're doing it forever, one decision, and it's got to be the perfect decision. So I hope that helped you with getting some ideas on your niche and sort of starting to narrow down on what direction you want to start in.